And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. It's Pop Culture Thursday. Before we get to some of the fun stuff, we want to talk about the Rittenhouse trial as it continues and some of the things that were said around it, and just try to take some different angles on it. Before we dive into the Sexiest Man Alive was announced. We're also going to talk about a new vodka.
Was that me?
That you would have, if I brought in a bottle of this, you would have to try this.
No, I was on the Sexiest Man Alive.
We've moved past it. We're going to talk about that later. Also, some late night stuff we want to touch on. Before we get to any of that, how are you feeling today?
Well, first of all, I'm feeling good.
Okay.
I'm feeling better than good.
Positive.
I'm feeling great.
Okay.
Second of all, happy Veterans Day. Thank you
Yes.
to all the veterans. I was just thinking this morning. Thank you for your service has just become such a
Cliche.
I hope it doesn't ever get to the point that it's like walking through the handshake line and saying good game, good game, good game, good game that doesn't mean anything anymore.
Sure.
And so I truly hope that to the veterans out there that they feel appreciated, that it's not just this thing, oh, I'm supposed to say it, so I say it.
I was told, I forget who told me this. I was told that the most important thing about it is to make eye contact. And that has always stuck with me. So part of it, like when you're going through the handshake line, like good game, good game.
Because then
yes. And so I was always told, like on Veterans Day, when you're thanking about, I was like young when I was told this and it stayed with me. But when you thank them for their service, eye contact,
it makes
look
sense.
right at them.
It's a lot harder to be disingenuous when you're making eye contact.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So if you sincerely mean it, I was told that as a kid, like do not just say it, like eye contact, nod, like those types of things. I've always, for Veterans Day, like I do want to say this because we come on here and like I complain a lot, or this isn't right, we should try to fix this, here's what we should do. I do want to say on Veterans Day, I've always thought that it is a day, if nothing else, like if you don't run into a veteran, if you don't get to tell anybody thank you for your service, you don't have a place to hang a flag, if nothing else, I've always tried to take, like today is a day of appreciation. So I've always tried to just kind of appreciate the things I have a little bit more than what I do on a day like today.
Isn't it funny how so many of the problems that we have are really, really
Yes.
first world problems?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That you're like, in the grand scheme of things, this is totally irrelevant.
Yes.
And it might not, like in our world, it may be a slight inconvenience or whatever, but yes.
Yeah. So it's so funny you said that. There was something this morning, like I was thinking about things like I could be appreciative of and all this stuff. And you hit the nail on the head.
Was one of them your girlfriend?
It was. But you hit the nail on the head. Like there's so many things that we just take for granted. And even today, like I just woke up and I just assumed I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I could say what I wanted to say, do what I want to do. And there's just very few places like that in the world, truly, like less and less now than ever before.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the things that the things we take for granted sometimes, like you mentioned, like those first world problems, but some of them are just these broad general consensus things that we just assume are like the rights of every person. And you just kind of forget that like somebody had to defend that.
I would suspect, like I've always told people, I've told this to my kids, like you have no idea what it's like to be a parent until you are a parent. Mm. And you think because you have this, but you don't know and you can't know. And I would suspect for the military people that's the same boat. Sure. That we think we know what it's like to be in the Army. We've seen a few good men. We understand the general concept of boot camp, but we don't know, and they know we don't know, and they understand it.
Yeah.
So
no, well said.
Yeah,
well said. The other
I also wanted to point out, as I'm feeling good. Last night I was at a coaches meeting. There were a bunch of people around, a bunch of people that we both know. Got many compliments on the show. I think they talked about mostly how brilliant I was.
That's good.
And how alternatingly brilliant you were.
That's good.
So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, happy to hear that.
Maybe that's not verbatim what they said, but that's how I paraphrase.
When I first started doing this, I knew I would have to let you tell your version of the story. And after a year of doing this with you, I've come to accept that I just take it all with a grain of salt.
That's
So,
good. It's a good way to lead.
I'll let
That
you
is a
keep your
good life
version of the
mantra.
story.
Just take it with a grain of salt.
I'll let you keep that. So here's just the quick rundown. Kyle Rittenhouse, he's facing charges of homicide and other offenses. He took the stand yesterday to testify about the August 2020 shooting that killed 2 and injured 1. At the time, he was 17. He was carrying an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle during a protest. And that is kind of like the most basic, generic version of
now,
the story
he was
I
not
can tell.
in the protest, correct? Wasn't he going to protest the protest?
Yeah, if that's how you want to word it. I'm still not entirely, there's so many ways to talk about this. You and I talked about this idea of self-defense and what are you defending. I'm still not entirely sure what he was defending or what he believes he was defending.
I don't know how and I realize when you're on trial and they've got to come up with some defense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, regardless of the age does play into this somehow, that he's only 17,
Sure.
that he's a minor. But I don't know how you take, what was it, an AK-47?
AR-15, I believe.
Okay.
AR-15.
An AR-15 across state lines. Like you went looking for this, and then at the end of the day, you claim self-defense. I'm not sure how that works.
I had said to you before the show, I'm not really, the self-defense part is very, I feel like that's an uphill swim, like a down, what am I looking for? Like you're going up against the current. I feel like regardless of how you feel about it, if we were his lawyers, like just putting on the lawyer cap for a second, almost like a national defense, a state defense, a property defense.
Right.
There had to be a better wording than self-defense. Now, I'm not smart enough to be a lawyer. I'm sure maybe they went through those and there just wasn't a legitimate option. They felt that maybe they had a chance to win with that. But the self-defense aspect of it, when you take the time to cross state lines to go defend something, and again,
with an AR-15,
but this is the part, like he very well may have thought he was doing something good. I'm not Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know. But like once you're crossing state lines and you're going there yourself and you're bringing your AR-15 with you, in the whole context of it, self-defense doesn't, I can't wrap my head around.
No, I get it. And the thinking that you're doing something good doesn't expunge you of, like, there are many, many people who beat their kids and thought that this is how discipline is done, and I am being a good parent by doing this, and they were being abusive parent by doing it. So yes, I don't know what he thought. I'm kind of guessing as a 17-year-old with access to an AR-15, he thought he was being a badass. That's what I think he thought. He didn't think he wasn't doing this for the greater good. He was doing this to puff his chest out, show people how tough he was.
But most people like that, though, would not have actually showed up.
Agreed.
Most people, when we were growing up,
most of us talk a big game and don't do anything. I agree.
So I feel like this self-defense thing, it's almost like in a bubble. Like, and again, maybe they had to do this. Like maybe in the court system, this is what you have to do. You almost have to rip away the broader layers and just try to focus on, because otherwise it gets too convoluted. And so in the instance, like if you're just focusing on the instance of it, then maybe I can see why they would have used the self-defense defense. But otherwise, like I really struggle. To me, that's a loss. Like I don't know how you win the self-defense aspect in the broader context.
Well, and whether we're questioning this on trial, which obviously they won't let us ask any questions during the trial, which is unfortunate. Or just if we're talking to the guy and like, well, why did you take an AR-15? And it was either for posturing to make me look tough, and because, again, he felt like a badass, or he thought by going, he might be in danger. So then if you're going into some place voluntarily, and again, across state lines, he made an effort to go to this place that he knew up front was going to be dangerous. So he took such an advanced weapon, and then to turn around and be like, well, then I had to defend that's a, because how many places have you gone in life and felt like you needed to take an AR-15?
Myself personally,
Zero. Okay.
I will say though, the last 2 years, I know where my opinions lie in the subject, but I feel like one of us has to play devil's advocate here.
You do.
That's fine. I'll play devil's advocate here. I would argue in the last 1.5 to 2 years were extraordinary circumstances. Because if I go through the first 33 years of my life, even if I was looking for somewhere to do, like, I don't even know if I would have been in the last 16 months, 18 months, when you look at the marches, when you look at the riots, when you look at just the pandemic, it's just so uncircumstantial. Like now again, did he seek it out? Did he 100%? But when you say to me, like, have you ever been in that situation? No. Do I think more people than ever before were in that situation in the last 16, 18 months? I do. I think there have been more just extraordinary circumstances than ever before. Not saying his was an extraordinary circumstance that he did not bring on to himself.
Well, and I get that. As society moves on, the way America is constituted, there will be more protests. There will be more peaceful protests. And as a society, we are much better off not having 17-year-olds take AR-15s 100%. And deciding they are going to defend the rights of America.
100%.
So, like, that's why, partially, that I think this kid's going to end up having the book thrown at him, because it can't be, oh, well, he was just trying to help. He was like, this is not, the next time there's a protest, the next time there's a 1 million man march, we don't need 17-year-olds showing up with AR-15s, and they'll take care of everything.
See, I'm not convinced he's going to get the book thrown at him. And
I'm not either, and that's scary.
I'm not convinced. I will say this. I've told you before, I'm having a hard time gauging, and I mean, he's not going to decide this, but I am having a hard time gauging Judge Bruce's demeanor. I'm having a hard time. I said to you before, after watching him speak and kind of what he does, I firmly believe he thinks he's doing what is right.
The judge?
Yes.
Okay.
I firmly believe he believes what he is doing is right. His demeanor and the way that he talks down to some of these people in his courtroom, it is bizarre. It is, like I said to you before, we had brought up Judge Judy. I think there was a point in time where Judge Judy wasn't seen as like this very
mean,
uppity, mean person. And then over time, you just get to the point where, like, you kind of forget that you are not the power, and you just kind of forget. Like, and this judge.
But she's a TV character.
I get that
I assume it's real law. I assume it's pending.
Right.
Like that what she says matters, but it's a TV show and it's a joke. And if you're having your legal troubles tried by Judge Judy, then, I mean, they must be making so much more than the $1,500 you're about to lose.
Hold on. I mean, she must still have like a district. Like, she must, like, the people that go into Judge Judy aren't, like, they're not just like polling them, are they?
Oh, I think you have to.
You think
agree.
You're like polling into?
I don't think you can get stuck on TV.
You don't think she has like her own jurisdiction, like her own district itself?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
I mean, she must have a jurisdiction.
She must.
But in that jurisdiction, only the people that want to be on TV are on TV.
That I agree with. But the point I'm making is.
Oh, okay. Yes, I get that.
But the point I'm making is it's not like you would have to have the misfortune of falling into her jurisdiction, and maybe you just want to get this over with, and that's your option, is to have her, and like it is, and you're just like, fine, like whatever.
But I think, and I could be totally wrong, I think the people are making like 10 grand a piece. The plaintiff makes 10 grand, the defense makes 10 grand. It's small claims court, so at the end of the day, I'm going to rule for one. So if I rule against you and you're out 2 grand, that means you only get 8.
Maybe.
I can't believe anyone in their right mind would go on Judge Judy to have their.
I don't know if I agree with you on that. But to get back to like Judge Bruce, I don't think he's a bad judge. I think he's incredibly hard to read. And there are things he does and there are things he says that I cannot tell if he is so stringent by the letter of the law that he's just forgot how to like speak, like just be like a decent
Human being,
or if he truly like just has it out and I can't tell. I cannot tell by his mannerisms and the way he acts.
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
We'll see how it ends up.
LeBron James, do you want to talk about him?
Did he commented on this?
He commented on this. Since it's pop culture, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically called them out, essentially said that they were fake tears by Kyle Rittenhouse. I forget the exact tone, but essentially said, like, those are fake. I can find the exact quote for sure. Do you have any... I'm always shocked at what LeBron James decides to throw his hat in the ring and when he doesn't decide to throw his hat in the ring. It always surprises me.
I am forever impressed with LeBron's willingness to stand up for what he thinks is social injustice.
His exact quote was, and then you can continue. His exact quote was, "What tears? ? I didn't see one. Man, knock it off. That boy ate some lemon heads before walking into court." LeBron James tweeted.
Like, there are lots of guys that make that much money that aren't taking, because as Michael Jordan said once upon a time, you know, white people buy sneakers too, and that's why he was very neutral. J Simpson, back in the day, before he became J Simpson, when he was just a famous football player and an actor and a personality, he was very much like I need white people to like me too, and that was part of the persona. And you know, you've got Tiger Woods, and there are very, very few. You can see the Muhammad Ali's of the world, the Jim Browns of the world. Arthur Ashe became it later in life. Not while he was on top of the tennis world, at least I don't think, but I don't remember 1975 very well, and that's when he won the U.S. Open. But LeBron, he is not afraid, and I'm sure there's a lot of white America that pisses off, but there has to be a level of respect for the fact that of all the guys that could come out and make a statement, and maybe other ones have, and you know, we didn't know.
There were a couple of other professional athletes, a couple of entertainers that said, you know, they said their piece. They obviously believe one thing or the other, but few, like, this was kind of like a razzing. There was a tone with this that kind of, I don't even want to say it came off wrong, because I think it landed.
No. It came off the way he wanted it to come off.
Yes, I think it landed. There is a feeling here of he's 17.
Not anymore. He's 17 when it happened. I wonder if there is a tone here that he missed, in the sense of how upset would he be if it were reversed. And I don't know if he fully... Who's he?
LeBron James.
What was reversed?
If what was reversed. If I'm trying to think of like a professional white basketball player. If a professional white basketball player claimed that a 17-year-old African-American was crying on the stand.
Oh, so you mean if like Tom Brady
and claimed that he had a bag of lemon heads, he ate a bag of lemon heads before he went up on the thing. I don't know how well it would have been received.
I get what you're saying.
I think LeBron James certainly would not have been okay with it. I think so. There's just a tone there where I just always wonder how often. I think LeBron James very often is tone deaf, and that doesn't mean that he's always wrong. I think there are moments in time where he realizes, like, this analogy isn't going to work perfectly, but he always made fun of other teams and GMs for not signing Carmelo Anthony. And then, like, a reporter asked him, like, well, why didn't you guys sign him? And you could tell, like, it just never occurred to him that, like, while he's calling,
Because he doesn't pass the ball.
Because he wasn't that good. But my point being is you could tell it never occurred to LeBron James that he too did not sign Carmelo.
Well, he's not a GM.
He's a GM. So my point being is like, I think there are times where LeBron is like tone deaf, not incorrect, not like he can't say what he wants to say, but there's like this tone missing sometimes when he says things that I think he.
But in this moment, I don't think he's tone deaf. In the overall scope, I agree with you. And the issue will always lie in the fact, as long as whatever race or whatever sect or whatever it is doesn't call out their own. Would LeBron ever say this if this was a black 17-year-old on the stand who just killed another black kid? And that's where it happens.
Right.
Like as long as Black Lives Matter only comes out and complains when a black person is killed by a white person, then to society it lacks a little bit of credibility, because the black life that got lost by the hands of another black person matters just as much.
Correct.
But they don't. Al Sharpton doesn't come and march at those.
Right. But when I first started this, I said it always surprises me when he throws his hat in the ring, and I think that's what I mean.
No, I get what you're saying.
For this now to be the time, because there's court cases all the time, and he doesn't say anything. So it's just, I'm not surprised by the timing, but it always shocks me at kind of like when, not the stance he takes, but when he decides to take the stance.
I get it. But I like this one. I thought this was good. But we've talked about this, whether it's in politics or whether it's in race relations or whatever, until people like take accountability for their own.
Yeah.
For their own party, for their own, whether white, black, Democrat, Republican, whatever.
Right.
We just keep firing arrows at the other side.
Sure.
And like, they're terrible, they're terrible, they're terrible. But when we're terrible, and what's even worse is we sometimes blindly defend it.
Yeah.
Just because, well, it's our side, so I feel like I have to defend it, instead of just coming out and saying, yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah. No. Should we defend this? We're total idiots. Would you like to make the statement first?
You two are total idiots.
How do we defend this?
I think total's unfair.
I think total's very unfair.
Yeah, I would disagree.
I would say partial.
Without a doubt.
Partial idiots.
Without a doubt.
But not full.
Not total.
Not total, not full.
Total is.
Total's like hyperbolic. Like, that's not fair at all.
So go back to that. This is an old person here.
You think so?
So no, me. I'm speaking as an old person.
Oh, so Cheryl's not old.
Well, I don't even know Cheryl.
Yes.
You're a young person.
Okay.
So help me with this.
Okay.
When I see this,
yes,
the first thing I think is she's calling us idiots.
Yes.
But instead of typing out 6 letters of you,
well, you and I disagree with this.
She types out 2 letters in caps.
You and I disagree with this.
So, and that's why I'm asking, as a young person, do you not see that and think like, oh, that's perfectly acceptable?
I don't think any less of Cheryl's abilities or state of mind.
No, it's total.
I don't think any less of Cheryl's inability or state of mind just because she said you too. Like, that doesn't, like, because the thought has nothing to do with how she spelled it or spaced it out. The thought is just that we're total idiots.
Well, and I get that. Yeah. But if she says...
But you're distracted by that.
If she says...
You're going to try to take away from her ability to judge whether or not we're total idiots because she decided to spell W-O-U space T-W-O capital U numeral 2. I'm
just saying... to try to make her point better.
Okay.
Like, I understand if she says in conversation,
her point's not changed whether she does it one way or the other. Her point is still that we are total idiots.
And I don't disagree with that. But if she says you're total idiots,
yes,
and uses the wrong "you're," doesn't that hurt her message?
To me, it does not.
Oh, to me, it does.
I'm not distracted because her ability in grammar or phonetics does not negate her opinion that we are total idiots. I'm focusing on her opinion. I'm focused on her opinion and whether or not that is true. And you and I disagree. We think we're like partial idiots, not total.
Not total.
Yes.
Okay, and I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Her opinion still stands, but doesn't it when you if her grammar sucks in a 4-word sentence, Doesn't that make her an idiot too? Then
No.
when an
in
idiot's
grammar it does, but not in judging whether or not we're idiots. Do you see what I'm saying?
Valid point. Okay.
Thank you.
That's
Yes.
why I went
So,
to, because I know you young, like I see that. I'm like,
Yes.
U2 is a band.
By grammar,
U2 is not how you describe a group of people sitting in a room.
So have you considered that she hates the band U2?
And I don't really love U2.
No,
I think U2 is the most overrated band ever.
Did we just become best friends?
Why? Do you think that as well?
Oh my gosh, they're so overrated.
Now, see, now I will say this. From a musician standpoint, if you talk to musicians, apparently Edge is like the greatest guitar player of all time, and any guitar player will tell you that.
Okay.
And I'm not a musician, I get that. I just know from my ears, they have a couple songs that I love.
Okay.
The catalog, I think they have the most Grammy awards of any rock band ever.
Do you think there's something to their songs that it's significantly more powerful in concert than it is listening to it in your car?
I've never seen them in concert, so I don't know.
I think they are the perfect example of like a concert,
a live band,
live concert, arena, stadium. Because I joke all the time, there are albums that are significantly better when you are in an arena and there's like a chant and a clap going, and
I'm with you.
And when you listen to it in your car, like you're actually like, oh, actually that's not that great.
Have you ever had a band? And I had a buddy tell me this before, who was a huge concert goer, and I've been to my share of concerts, but not like this guy.
Okay.
But have you ever gone to a concert and kind of fell in love with a song after hearing it live, and you're like, I never really liked it until I heard it live, and then
absolutely.
When I saw the one that sticks out to me is Prince's "When I Was Your Girlfriend."
Okay.
And I thought this song sucked until I heard it live.
Okay.
And like you said, the audience is into it. There's a clap rhythm to it.
Yep.
And it was in Philadelphia. It was in either the old Spectrum or the new Spectrum or whatever the hell it's called now.
Yep.
And there's like 15,000 people clapping in unison when it's, and I was like, holy, this song is awesome.
See, I think there's whole albums or stages for artists where that's the case.
I believe it.
Where when they're going along, they release an album and you're like, I don't really get this album. But then what you realize, I went through this with Mumford & Sons. If there's any Mumford & Sons fans out there, please comment. Mumford & Sons released their first two, and it was very folksy. So there wasn't a ton of bass to it. There wasn't a lot of there was obviously strings, but they weren't like heavy strings. There was no like electric strings or anything like that. First two albums, amazing. The third album, and by the way, I think they won Album of the Year on the second album. They released their third album, and it's a completely different sound. Completely.
Okay.
But what you realize after you see them in person, or when you talk to somebody who's seen them in person, is after the first two albums, they started playing in front of tens of thousands of people. When they made the first two albums, they were playing in front of
tens of people.
And so what happened is they're playing in front of, and they say like, well, how do we create music to play in front of? And so you make it louder, there's a heavier beat. Now there's electric strings and all this stuff. And it completely changed the tone of their music. And I don't even know if it's because they wanted to. They just realized we're playing in a different environment now.
Now, I do want to preface this before you ever go into a 90-second soliloquy again, remember that we're total idiots.
Yes.
And there's no use trying to pretend that we're not. So 90-second explanations on anything, they're not buying it.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it depends what we're talking about.
You consider that she hates the band? You know what? Now I agree with William. I don't even think she was talking about us.
She did. I mean, it is exactly the way the band is written. The exact way the band is written is you two
I think she hates Bono. I think she hates Bono.
I mean, listen, I'm not a huge fan either.
There's a movie.
Is Cheryl our best friend? Cheryl might be our best friend.
There's a movie.
Who was the guy that commented for the first
Tom Madison.
Madison, I think was the last
something
name.
Like that.
Was it Ron?
I thought it was Tom.
No, I thought it started with an R. Anyway, Mr. Madison, if you're still out there somewhere,
he's not. You know why he's not? Because a year before Cheryl realized it, he realized we are total idiots.
But he never called us. He never called us total idiots.
There's a movie, and I'm not sure how stretched the truth is, but it's somewhat true.
Yes.
Of a guy, like when when Bono, I don't know what his real name is, and Edge, I don't know what his real name is, but they're like teenagers are they from Dublin? Wherever they're from, and they're this, this teenage band playing clubs and stuff like that. And another guy was in the band with him, but he kind of wanted to do his own thing. And the whole basis, is it called Killing Bono? The whole basis of the movie is like how this guy had a chance to be part of U2 and decided, no, I'm going to go do my own thing. And it clearly didn't work out.
Okay.
And now I think in the reality, it might not be like, he might not have been like, here's your contract, you can be in the band. And he crumpled it up and said, oh, hell no. But there was, like, he played with them and they were in a group, and all of a sudden they weren't in a group, and then they became U2 and he became whatever he was. Right. And that would suck.
Yes, it would.
Could you imagine living that?
No, I could not.
Well, it's like the first drummer of the Beatles. They got thrown out of the Beatles.
Right. I've heard that.
I read an interview with him, and they're like, have you ever talked to him after that? He's like, how do you get in touch with the Beatles? It's not like, point. I didn't talk to him for you. I think he saw him, however many years later. But it was Pete Best, wasn't that Pete Best?
Oh.
But that would suck.
That's the one.
Because you're like, here, we're a couple songs into it, and then a couple albums in, and all of a sudden, by the way, you're out, and we're going to go be the Beatles now.
You know what doesn't suck?
What?
Being named Sexiest Man Alive, which is the title now that Paul Rudd holds after yesterday.
We were in the running.
Do you think so?
I think so.
This one feels even more far-fetched than the almost Emmy nominee.
Do you think? I don't know. I think we're on the right. I think we're trending. I think we're trending upward.
There was a great. He went on Halloween one year. He went as Weird Al Yankovic.
Okay.
So Weird Al Yankovic tweeted, "Congratulations to Paul Rudd on being named People Magazine's Sexiest Person Alive." And he shared the picture of him dressed up as Weird Al, essentially claiming Weird Al could have won Sexiest Person Alive because Paul Rudd's outfit was so good.
I think we've talked about this, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent. Weird Al's like a trained architect.
Well, he was an architect, and there's something else too. There's something really random he's like qualified in or very good at.
Oh, I don't know. But he's also has some record, not a record, but a Guinness Book of World Records record.
Okay.
That he had either a top 10 album or a top 10 hit or something like that in 5 different decades.
Oh, yes. You were telling me this once before.
I stumbled across this stat somewhere, and I think it was like him and Michael. It was either Michael Jackson or Madonna, and it would have been something that Michael Jackson, I think, released post, not he released, but was released posthumous. What's that word after they're dead? Posthumously? Yes. Posthumously.
Yes.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
But anyway, Weird Al has some record because he had a hit in the 2010s. Okay. He broke in the 80s, 90s, the first decade of the new century, and then he has some record that is you wouldn't think like, oh, it's Weird Al.
You wouldn't think it's him. Makes sense. Do you know how old Weird Al is now? Do you want to guess?
If he couldn't have been young, I'm gonna say 67.
62.
Oh, okay. How old is Paul Rudd?
I don't know. That's a good question too. First of all, I think I'm down with Paul Rudd.
He seems like incredibly, he seems like a Hollywood guy that if he wasn't really, really normal, if we couldn't go sit and watch a game, that I would be surprised.
Right. Yeah.
That he seems very, that there wouldn't be, like, he'd probably have his manager with him, but there wouldn't be an entourage. He wouldn't show up in a presidential cavalcade. And
right. One of the best things I told you, when he got the announcement, when they told him, the first thing he said was, "I'm going to get business cards made."
Yes. That he's almost like, yeah, man, on the joke. Not that it's a joke, but it's, and I think it gives the rest of us a chance. Because you don't have to look like Brad Pitt or Paul Newman or Sean Connery. You can be Paul Rudd.
Right. So this is interesting. When you try to go to Paul Rudd's Wikipedia page, it brings up the People magazine article for him being the sexiest person alive.
Of course it does.
No, like it takes you to. It doesn't take you to Wikipedia. I don't know if you understood what I'm saying. When you go to click,
Wikipedia set that up, right?
You think so?
They would have to, I would think.
I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Now, my question to you is, does this bring competition in your mind to your love affair with Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling? Now do you have a third?
I think this is, I don't know how to say this without being rude to Paul Rudd. I think like you can only really be named sexiest person alive once, correct?
I think so.
You just eventually you're going to get through the people that should have it. Like if you really
So you're saying there was no one else?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you're going to get through the top 10 qualifiers at some point. Like you just are.
But then there are new people coming up.
I understand. Well, that's funny you say that because guess how old Paul Rudd is?
I would say
this is great news for you.
I would say he's got to be about 50.
He is 52.
Look, see?
Great news for you.
I'm in my heyday.
You're almost there. 52.
But
okay.
You know what no one has said lately about Paul Rudd?
What?
That he's a total idiot.
No, he is not a total idiot. I don't know how to say this because this is such a weird thing to say. There's no way the sexiest person alive probably only actually wins sexiest person alive every 10 years. Because
you're saying the sexiest person they're still the sexiest person.
What are the odds?
Like Michael Jordan wasn't the best player in the NBA for a year. He was the best player in the NBA for a decade.
Correct.
Tom Brady is the best quarterback.
That's a very good analogy.
I get you.
So like, again, not
Halle Berry wouldn't have won once.
Correct.
She would have won over and over. I'm with you. That's a valid point.
So not to take anything away from Paul Rudd, I just think like they at some point over a 10-year span, they are thinking outside the box. Is that fair to say? Doesn't mean you're not sexy. Doesn't mean you're not deserving. But they are thinking outside the box at some point in that decade span. This very much feels to me like a thinking outside the box pick.
Okay.
No, I say all of that. He has his own Netflix series. He is a superhero in Marvel.
Oh, he's ridiculously successful.
And he's not a bad-looking guy. So I say all of that with a grain of salt.
But he doesn't, he gives the whole, and like, we are the last two people, maybe not the last two, but there are certainly more well-qualified people to talk about what makes a sexy dude than us. But he gives a more, like on Gilligan's Island, Ginger was sexier than Marianne, just because Marianne just seemed to have the more natural down home. Not that many guys wouldn't have picked Marianne,
okay,
but when you talk about like sexiness,
okay,
sexiness and funny don't really go together in that.
I disagree.
Oh, in life they do.
Okay.
But not in when you see a picture of someone and it's like when you're looking at the swimsuit issue, you don't like sense of humor doesn't come into play. You're just like,
correct.
She's hot.
Correct. I understand that. I guess if you're People's Magazine, though, this is what I think of Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd, there are very few women throughout his life. Like, they're like, oh, I dated someone just as good looking as Paul Rudd. I really believe that. I really, really believe that. Like, if you go back through and look at him in his 20s, his 30s, his 40s, up to 52, I think the appeal to Paul Rudd is people think like their best mate, like the best person they went on a date with was as good looking as Paul Rudd. And there's something unbelievably relatable to that.
Maybe. And I just kind of, when you said that, I went off in a tangent. I had a friend who he was somewhere and we were talking about Rebecca Romaine. She's not Rebecca Romaine Stamos anymore, is she?
I
was
would
married
assume
to John
she's
Stamos.
not.
He was talking about her and he's like, I was in a room with her one time. She's not as hot as you would think. And I said, you are out of your mind. And he made this statement to me, and I'm sure he was exaggerating. He said, I have dated 10 women who look better than Rebecca Romaine. And I looked right at him and said, I don't know if there are 10 women that look better than Rebecca Romijn. So I'm guessing that there are lots of women who have never dated anyone who look as good as Paul Rudd.
So I have the list here. Can we run down through? I'm going to say the name and you can just
swipe right or swipe left?
No, Paul Rudd. Is Paul Rudd better looking than these people?
What are you giving me a list of past winners?
These are the winners. These are the sexiest men alive that have been named.
Okay.
Yes. 1985 Mel Gibson. Probably better looking.
At the time, Mel Gibson really had it going on.
Yeah,
are we really going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about sexy men?
We'd be done if you
let me go. Let's do it.
1986 Mark Harmon.
Who is Mark?
Mark Harmon.
Mark Harmon from Summer School. He's kind of a stretch for me. I think Mel Gibson would have doubled up there. I think I give you that.
1987 Harry Hamlin.
Oh, I'm even having trouble picturing Harry Hamlin. I know who he is.
He was in LA Law.
He was LA Law.
Recently, he's been in the Clash of Titans.
I think chicks really dug Harry Hamlin.
Yes, I would agree with that. JFK Jr., 1988.
You know, chicks really dug JFK Jr. I don't get it.
The hair. It had to be the hair.
Was it?
You don't think
Did you ever see the Seinfeld episode?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the hair just obviously the Kennedy effect,
yes, in societal, he outranked Paul Rudd. I'm with you.
1989 Sean Connery.
Sean Connery was old then. Women have loved Sean Connery for 50 years.
Yes.
He's dead now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe he passed away.
Was it Patrick Swayze was in there somewhere, wasn't it?
You're the worst reading off lists. 1990 Tom Cruise. It's the next.
Oh, see, that's a stretch.
You really see?
He's 5'2".
I understand. People, no.
So you're just there are a lot of women who would. I'm telling you. I think there are a lot of women who would never date a guy shorter than them, and Tom Cruise is shorter than half the female population.
But doesn't that help prove how sexy Tom Cruise is?
No, and Prince is the only exception to that rule.
Tom Cruise certainly is an exception to that rule. We're going to disagree on that one. 91 was Patrick Swayze.
I knew he was coming up somewhere. That was like the ghost time. Everyone loved him.
92 was Nick Nolte. Which that one's great. Here's the title on the cover was Strong, Sensitive, and Squared Away.
Nick Nolte has had a rough second half of his career.
1993, they actually named a sexiest couple.
Oh, wait.
Because Cindy Crawford.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves was retroactively named 1994's Sexiest Man Alive.
What's that mean? I mean, I know what retroactively means, but what happened?
Keanu Reeves never technically scored a cover. People never picked a Sexiest Man Alive in 1994. People magazine, that is.
So Keanu Reeves, what was he doing in 94? Like he had done
He was being the sexiest man alive. That's what he was doing. 95 Brad Pitt.
Okay.
96 Denzel. We don't even have to. 97 George Clooney. The 90s.
They got it going on there.
They knew once they figured out what this was in the late 90s. 98 Harrison Ford. 99 Richard Gere again. So Richard Gere, we have here, it was Clooney, Pitt, Depp, and Gere have all won twice. 2000 Brad Pitt. 2001.
So Pitt came back 95 to 2000. Okay.
Yep. 2001 Pierce Brosnan.
Okay. Women loved him.
2002 Ben Affleck. That's a no-brainer for you. 2003 Johnny Depp.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question with that, I'm trying to think was that right around Pirates of the Caribbean?
It was.
The thing I would say about Johnny Depp, and I don't know if this goes along with sexy, he's the most eccentric of the names you've listed so far. He to me is the most artistic. So that makes it.
Yeah.
He in a way like he's too eccentric to be like a man's man in the sexiness. Is what I'm saying.
Just to clarify, Jack Sparrow won Sexiest Man Alive.
Yes, I will give you that. And he was a drunk swashbuckler.
Correct. 2004 Jude Law. That's a no-brainer.
Really?
Oh yes, yes.
Jude Law does it for you?
What's that?
Jude Law does it for you.
Yeah, Jude Law is to me, I think of Jude Law being almost like in that like Clooney realm of just like I think women think he's just the bee's knees. You don't think so?
Maybe.
Jude Law
I would
falls
have
into the
never. You could
category
give me
of-
100 guesses, and I would.
Jude Law falls in the category of women want him, but men don't want to be him. But women want Jude Law.
Well, women sometimes aren't that picky.
That's ridiculous.
So I always wondered, is that his
2000
real name or was he named after the Beatles song? Is what I've always, that when that comes up, that's the first thing. I probably could have Googled it to find out if it's his real name, but I've never done it.
2005 was Matthew McConaughey.
I believe that.
Okay. 2006 was Clooney again.
Okay.
2007 was Matt Damon.
Okay.
2000,
Just because, wait, when was Ben Affleck?
2002.
So Damon had to wait 5 years. I wonder how much good friendly ribbing he took over that.
Well, wasn't that when the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing was going on? I think that's when that was happening. 2008, Hugh Jackman. That's a no-brainer. 2009 was when Depp won it again.
Okay.
2010, Ryan Reynolds, no-brainer.
You have no complaints. Let's talk about Ryan Reynolds. Do you have any complaints about that?
No complaints about that. 2011, Bradley Cooper. I think that's a no-brainer. 2012 was Channing Tatum. That was a no-brainer. 2013, Adam Levine.
Was there any woman in America who was not in love with Channing Tatum?
Oh, was there any guy in America that was not in love with Channing Tatum?
Yes, me.
No, that was you. That is the inverse of Jude Law, where every woman wanted him, but every guy wanted to be him. Everybody wanted to be
that,
Channing
but it doesn't mean I was in love with him.
You're ridiculous. 2013, Adam Levine, Maroon 5 singer.
Yeah, I remember. No, that was start of The Voice, wasn't it?
Yes, good-looking dude. 2014, Chris Hemsworth. That's a no-brainer. 2015, David Beckham. I'm shocked it took that long for David Beckham to win. 2016, The Rock.
Okay.
No-brainer. 2017, Blake Shelton.
That's an interesting one.
Okay. 2018.
And again, he falls into the category of if Blake and us sat down to watch a game, and I think he would be a great guy. And if he wasn't, I would be disappointed.
I think, yes, I'm sure Blake Shelton is a great person. Don't you feel like he's a country singer? So like I don't know. I feel like country singers get a pass with that stuff.
They seem more down to earth just because.
When in reality, like, I don't know if that's necessarily
And it could be. He could be a prick, but he doesn't come across. I would be surprised.
Especially like in white America. I feel like country singers just get like a pass. It's just like, oh, they seem so down. Whereas I feel like to half of America, like that is not like you don't automatically get.
You
that
may be
pass.
right, but so the first time I sit down with Blake and we watch a game and throw some burgers back, I'll let you know how it was.
Let me know. 2018, Idris Elba. That's who I think should be the next Bond. The next 007.
Give me what was
Idris Elba. He was in The Wire on HBO for years. That's what most people know him for. He's in the Marvel films. You either know him or you don't.
That's why I'm Googling.
Yeah. 2019 was John Legend. 2020 was Michael B. Jordan. So here's what I'm saying. We just went through all of those as you're looking up Idris Elba. We just went through all of those, and he
was just in something else.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. He's very good.
So here's my question, and as we go back, did we go a quarter century of white guys and then go black guy, black guy, black guy?
If you really want that statistic, I can go back and look for you. All right.
Denzel was in there.
Denzel won.
That was it?
Denzel won in 1996.
He was it? So from 85 to, we went 30 years with one black guy, and then went black guy, black guy.
The Rock.
Oh, The Rock.
2016.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's still 30 years.
Still, yeah. So and then you went The Rock. Then you had Blake Shelton.
Oh, Shelton.
Then you had Idris Elba, John Legend, Michael B. Jordan, and now Paul Rudd. So here's since 1985, I would argue again how awful of an achievement to be one of the least sexiest men alive.
He's one of the bottom five when you think of sex.
He is when you define sexy, he is on this list for his charisma and for his take-home ability more so than just the chiseled jaw and the tight shirt.
Does People magazine do the same thing for women?
What do you mean?
The 50 most beautiful women.
I don't know. They must do a Sexiest Woman Alive, don't they?
If they did, do you think there would be one that was there who's cute with personality? Do you think they would have a Marianne on the list?
You don't think so?
No.
I do. Why?
Just because I don't think it,
that's not a reason.
I don't think it works that way.
You got to defend your thought.
No, because I'm a total idiot, so we don't have to defend anything. I don't think it would. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, Richard Gere all have won twice. Okay.
It looks like Esquire. It looks like Esquire does something similar, but People magazine, from what I'm seeing here, does not. Maxim does a Sexiest Woman Alive.
Okay.
So People magazine, from the looks of it, does not do this.
Well, tomorrow we should go through that, and we will prove my point.
You don't think so?
I don't think there's any simple. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some, like Jennifer Aniston has never come across as like this steamy, sultry. She's a very affable, bubbly. But when you talk about like, I think when they talk about like Hollywood and women and sexy, it is.
But isn't that?
It's not about personality.
But I feel like that was 90% of the men's list.
I'm trying to think, because you're right, but like,
I don't like this is going to be a very like millennial thing to say, but like I've never heard Brad Pitt talk and was swept off my feet. Like I've never said like.
But Brad Pitt's way funnier than a lot of. Did you see his acceptance speech when he said something about like,
yes, but
I wish women got along with me like this, or it's better than my dating life?
For any woman you're going to name, I can say like, well, you know, that one speech or one thing. They're all like have climbed the mountaintop for a reason, not just because like good looking will only get you so far. Like if you're a pain in the ass, or you don't think so? If you're a pain in the ass or you have no charisma, you're not going to make it very far in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
There's got to be an or something more. There has to be. There's better looking people than the people we just named on that list. They're just not celebrities.
In Hollywood?
They're just not celebrities.
Well, obviously they can't pick. They can't pick Bob from, you know.
Yes. So why aren't they celebrities? Because they lack a certain
they never got their
charisma.
Big break.
No. It's because they lack a charisma or they lack like a funny bone.
Well, it's not.
You don't think so?
It's more complicated than that, I would think.
Really?
Really.
Then why don't they just pick the sexiest person? Why don't they just
try to sell magazines?
Exactly. That's what I'm making. And so in order to be on the cover of the magazine,
you have to be a celebrity.
You've got to be a celebrity. In order to be a celebrity, people got to like you.
But they can't put the sexy celebrity alive. They put the sexiest man alive because it sells more copies.
Right, but that doesn't help your argument.
Sure it does.
No, it means they sell more magazines.
I don't even know what your argument is anymore. I'm just saying that I think
you don't know what you're thinking.
No, I do. Well, now I'm trying. I'd always thought. Now I'm thinking out loud. I'd always thought that sexy from a woman had nothing to do with.
Yes,
on TV, it had nothing to do with personality. In a magazine, nothing to do with personality.
Yes, you are very different.
In real life, it certainly is different. But again, I go back to my swimsuit issue. When I look at a girl in a swimsuit issue, I don't care if she's smiling and happy or not. And that's why most of them don't smile.
Oh, I just keep going back to the fact that we're total idiots. French fry vodka sounds like a late night college party experiment, but it's the latest offering from Arby's. If I brought a bottle of this into the office, you would have to try it.
First of all,
you would have to try this.
Okay, I'm 50 years old. I don't drink. I've never had vodka. Okay. Do you know how many people have said to me in my life, you have to try it? Don't think you're the first.
This is
and different. Don't think it's gonna.
It was never French fry. You know what? I can't say it.
You can't.
It was never French fry vodka. I can tell you that.
I mean, I'm sure it's delicious. I'll just stick with my unsweetened iced tea.
Okay. All right.
Which I set on the floor because there's no room for it on the desk.
All right. You can stick with it. Congratulations for almost winning Sexiest Man Alive.
Almost. We're close. We're getting there. But I'm too young. I'm not 52
You got
yet.
2 more years to go.
I've got a couple
you'll just, you'll fully form here by 52 and you'll be ready.
Do you think there's anyone who ever turned it down?
Sexiest Man Alive. Is there anyone who ever turned it down? I don't know if anyone's ever turned it down. I think I agree with your sentiment that there are certainly reasons to turn it down.
Here's my other thought. And this is as we were going through. I thought this before you even got to the list. And then I thought it's going to be crazy that we talk about sexy men for 30 people. But then I was waiting for there to be somebody who was, I don't say off the map a little bit, but someone who was really gangster, who was really not, I don't say not mainstream, but not mainstream. Like those were all the Hollywood good looks guys. Those were all the Hollywood A-listers. When are they coming with, I was wondering if they were going to pick somebody who was from, a rock band, who had long hair, who was tatted up, who was somebody who just didn't fit that part.
At the time, Levine's probably the closest thing you're referring to.
And Levine looks tatted up, and he tried to look gangster, but he's the furthest thing from gangster.
At the time, though, like he had the shaved head, it was pretty close. I get your sentiment. That would be the closest thing that they came to.
But then, I get what you're talking about, but then he sings moves like Jagger. And it's not like, as far as like rebel rock bands, like giving the finger to the police and getting like there's a lot of him that doesn't fit the rock and roll image.
I mean, is Johnny Depp is probably the one.
Johnny Depp's the furthest one off. But when he was on 21 Jump Street, like there were times when Johnny Depp was American heartthrob.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a good example of who I'm thinking of, but
the interesting thing is the word sexiest. And again, like you said, they use it to sell magazines or anything else. It's such a, it's so subjective. And so like, I can't imagine like sitting if there's a table of a dozen people and all of them, if you told all of them, like, what is sexy? Like just write one page of like what defines sexy. How much do those vary and how, so like trying to figure out what is the conclusion of that, like what are you defining, what you're actually looking for. I would be fascinated to hear that conversation in People magazine. Like what are you actually looking for?
Like Bret Michaels, who you don't even know who he is. He's the lead singer of Poison.
No, he wasn't the lead singer of Poison. He was the lead person in the VH
Rock
of Love.
Rock of Love.
Yes.
Same guy. What about, and I'm missing the guy who was married to Kardashian.
Travis Barker?
No. The musician who was married to Kim Kardashian.
Kanye West?
Kanye. Like somebody like him. Like and I don't know.
But I don't think most people find Kanye West. That's interesting. I feel like if you asked most people what they thought of Kanye West, his looks just never come into it.
But okay,
it's always
so
about
of that genre, and I know, didn't John Legend make the list? Did you say John? But he's not really John Legend isn't a rebellious. So who's that kind of F mainstream, F them, I'm doing my thing.
David Portnoy.
Correct. But who is that in the music world?
Oh, you want to know in the music world? I don't know. I mean, I guess like Bieber.
Maybe.
If that's like what you're trying to go for.
I think Bieber's always seen as too young to be Sexiest Man Alive.
Honestly, it's surprising Drake hasn't won it. Just
there's
because
a guy,
of his popularity,
Drake,
and
like I'm thinking of rock and roll guys, like when Axl Rose was on top of his game, or Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. Like,
see, those people just aren't. I mean, today, those people just don't exist. Like, they're just not. Like, name a rock star today.
No, but it is in the world of rock now is Drake. In the world of popular music, it would be Drake or someone like them. But back then, in the 80s, these people were everywhere. That's like a Bret Michaels or a Steven Tyler or an Eddie Van Halen or somebody like that. But People magazine never went that way. they kept it very. It was a very safe list. We'll put it at that. Nobody's questioning George Clooney.
It was certainly clean cut those first like 5 years.
Absolutely,
I read off. Once you got to once you got to 95, and it was like Pitt, Denzel, like, and you started kind of like they kind of found exactly the cookie cutter they were looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wonder too. It would be interesting actually to pull a group of 12 women. Do you want the Hollywood, back in the day, pulling women my age? Would you rather had George Clooney or Bret Michaels? And how many of them? And nowadays, would you rather have Michael B. Jordan or Drake?
But but see, that's not the same. It's not the same, because pop culture now, like, these entertainers have crossed over to a point where they're not. I'm trying to think how.
I know what you're saying, and you're making a good point.
They've crossed over in a sense where there's not a lot of wonder about Drake. Whereas I feel like back then, like, you wondered about Steven Tyler, like you wondered about Bret Michaels. Like, there was an aura of like, I don't know what they do on a Tuesday. Like, I don't know what okay. And now that's like gone in our world today.
Back to the point that I was trying to make 5 minutes ago, and I couldn't articulate it. Doesn't sexiness isn't there an edge to it?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there was. And I'm not saying there still isn't. I'm just saying that is now harder and harder to find because of the world we live in. It's really hard to find somebody that in a 5-minute social media Google search, you don't know what's going on in their world. It's hard to find dark. Like, it's hard to find dark isn't, because dark has a negative connotation. But it's the unknown. It's the idea of like, I wonder, like, he disappeared off on his motorbike into the darkness, and like there's something the unknown was sexy. And that stuff just isn't around anymore. Like, where everybody is and what everybody's doing.
I get what you're saying. And this goes all the way back in a roundabout way to our Paul Rudd thing, that he just seems as nice. But to change it so we can talk in an arena where we know what we're talking about for once. If you walk in, if you're in an office setting and there are two girls who are equally attractive, and one is the nicest, peppiest, most helpful person in the world, and the other is a little quieter, a little like kind of a little bitchier, like the nice, happy, bubbly, peppy one doesn't come across as sexy as the other one who's a little standoffish and a little. Now, relationship wise, there's one but in the sexy world, there's a difference. There's an edge to sexiness.
So do you remember Saved by the Bell?
Yes.
Because I had this discussion a while back with somebody.
And it's funny you bring this up, because I have a Christmas present for you related to
Thank you. Everyone knows Zach Morris. I believe it's Paul Marcosser or Mark Paul.
I don't know his real name, but I know Zach.
Zach Morris. And then there was AC Slater, who is, and now he works for like entertainment television.
Yes. Yes.
They were in the show.
Is he Mario? Is his name Mario?
Yes, Mario Lopez.
Mario Lopez.
In the show, they are both displayed as these incredibly sexy people. Like they are. One is kind of like mischievous school clown in Zach Morris, where he's the cool kid, and and the other one is like the captain of the wrestling team, and he rides a motorcycle, and it's.
But are you going to tell me you were in love with one of them?
No, the point I'm making to you is that I think it goes back to the point I was making earlier. Like, I don't know. I would love to know how they decide to wrap all these things up, because they were so counterintuitive of one another. And yet to most people, they were both the definition of sexy. Like, if you talk to one younger girl who watched Saved by the Bell, Mario Lopez was everything.
Well, but they liked one or the other. You could talk
to her best friend, and they would tell you Zach Morris was it. So,
yes.
So how do you proclaim a Sexiest Man Alive when it's so very clear? That show is a perfect example of like,
well, no, I get it.
Depending on who it is and who's watching, how do you decide?
Yes, obviously, beauty's in the eye. But so how about from the female side?
Sorry, my point was so simplistic.
Well, it was
too easy.
You're a total idiot.
Yeah,
on the girl side, who was your favorite?
On that one, It was between Kelly and Lisa. I never found Jesse.
Which one's which?
Kelly Trapowski. She would be Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Okay.
And then Lisa Turtle was Voorhees.
The dark haired.
Yes. And then Soprano. She was the one who had the issues afterwards. She had like some, I believe it was drug and alcohol abuse issues. Her name was Jessie in the show. I was never that attracted to her. She had like the curly.
Was she the showgirls girl?
Yes.
Okay.
I was never that attracted to her, but it was always for me. It was
her name was Barkley or Berkeley or
yeah. But I had yes, Berkeley was her.
Elizabeth,
last name.
maybe.
Elizabeth Berkley, maybe.
Okay.
So I never, but I had told you before that show meant a lot to me because it was the first interracial relationship that I'd ever seen. Well, but between Screech being attracted to Lisa.
Okay.
And that whole thing. And also too, just like the way they let Screech into their circle of friends. And it was kind of like he was the nerd, like he was the dork, but like they always invited him. He was always kind of a part of the gang. Like he sat at the table with them.
He's dead now.
He is dead. Yeah. He had some really.
He had a tough go. He had a tough go post Screech. Yeah, I'm one of the few people who thought Saved by the Bell was much dumber than.
Oh, it is incredible.
I did not watch it. I think my dad actually watched it more than I did.
Now, when I was growing up, I loved it, but to go back and watch it now, it's a tough watch now to go back and watch.
I thought it was a tough watch then.
At the same time. You know what else broke my heart too is they put all the Boy Meets Worlds up. Like when all these streaming services, do you remember Boy Meets World?
I know of it. I've never seen an episode.
I went back and watched some of the Boy Meets World and they are tough to watch. And if you would have asked me like 8 years ago, what was like, I would have told you Boy Meets World was everything. Like it was the perfect show growing up as a kid. It is bad. It's hard to go back and watch now.
Huh.
Really breaks my heart.
I have no comment for that. I've
really,
never seen
really breaks my heart. All right.
We've done that. That was enlightening, and the best that the two idiots could do.
That was good. We should get that framed. How do we get that on a? We should get a flag of it.
You two are total idiots. And question mark.
How do we get a flag of just?
How do we know she's talking to us? We should have Cheryl on the show so she can explain herself. Is it us or is it Bono and Edge?
Or is it you two? And if it's not you two, how can we be more like you two so you like us more?
Maybe she still hasn't found what she's looking for.
On that note, thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
I thought it was clever. You didn't get that?
I did get it. That's why I said I'm calling it. I'm ending on that one.
With or without?
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show.